Hello everyone, wastelanders, adventurers, crazy wizards. Welcome to the PIPCAST 3000. I am Caedo Genesis, and this is my co-host, Bad Company Sarge.
Hello there.
And this is a bi-weekly podcast, usually every other Sunday, 10 a.m. Pacific, where we talk about Bethesda adjacent things and open world RPGs and generally just big RPG kind of stuff. So if that's the kind of thing you're into, hey, you might be in the right place. This episode is obviously going to be Avowed focused because Avowed from Obsidian just came out a couple weeks ago, and we've both been playing the heck out of it.
Okay,
so,
it came out on Tuesday for some of us.
Okay, if you got the premium edition because you were like, oh, it'll pay for itself, then you know, probably have been playing it for 2 weeks. Yeah. Otherwise, you were patient, smart with your wallet, and got it on regular release day. I still don't like that practice, but yeah. I had a chance to get to it early, so I took it. But anyway, that's generally what this episode is going to be about, and I apologize for those of you who are waiting for an episode 2 weeks ago. We actually skipped an episode, so it's been about a month, because on recording time, during the normal recording day 2 weeks ago, I had a pretty gnarly either tension headache or some kind of migraine going on, and I was like, Sarge, I can't, looking at anything hurts, skip that. And then Sarge was the one to flake a week after that, so we ended up just not.
I was ill, and technically I still am ill. It's great.
Yeah, Sarge is so sick. But it's okay, we're back, and we have quite a few things to cover. The news is going to come in first, of course, as well as the comments of the cast and such, but then the main topic, which will be the bulk of the episode, is of course going to be Avowed, and you're going to see some Avowed b-roll if you're watching the video on either Spotify or YouTube. So let's dive in, shall we, Sarge? Let's start by thanking the Wasteland Legends, Sven and Rose, thank you so much, and the supporters of this channel and the main channel. The comments of the cast from last episode, would you like to start us off and mention what last episode was about, if you remember?
Last episode was a tier list we did with all of the Elder Scrolls and Fallout games, where we decided definitively what franchise is better.
Yes. And
we solved it, everyone. You no longer need to discuss it. It's fine.
Yep.
We did it.
We found out objectively which objective game for objective gamers was the objectively truthful best franchise out of the Elder Scrolls and Fallout. So you don't have to worry. You don't have to wonder anymore, but you do have to go listen to that episode to find out the answer.
Phoenix Gyther says, I disagree with Fallout 76 being great. There is too much grinding and the handicapping of non-Fallout first players. You have to grind for gear so much that it turns playing into a chore. I defended it in the beginning, but can't anymore. So yeah, we obviously must have rated 76 fairly highly. I do get where Phoenix here is coming from. 76 is quite a grindy game, especially if you're going for like something specific. I think that's a thing I had to train myself out of doing with 76.
Yeah.
You just roll with whatever happens, and that's how you enjoy the game. So yeah,
pretty much.
I can definitely understand where you're coming from there.
But if you're going for like especially because the raids just came out too, like there is like definitively some really good stuff that you can get by doing the raids, but you have to be organized with a group of 4, and you have to already be built up to handle boss punishment. So like that's got an entry level that's pretty high up there for your average 76er. I was rating it on the merits of like the content that's not as grindy, like the actual like story related stuff and whatnot, which is where I was coming from.
Like every game, it's got its pros and its cons.
Yeah, and especially online games, like they have to make something more endless. It's like it's like if we put Skyrim lower because it had a radiant system, like it's grindy. You can quest endlessly, but that's not what I usually rate on a game if it's just endlessly generated content. Because that's filler to me. I don't know. That's just my feelings on it, though. So that was from the YouTube side. Thank you, Phoenix Guyver, for your take on 76. The grind is there, for sure. On the Spotify side, we got a comment from Steeltown Eric, who said, I think we shouted him out too. He said, "Man, I played a lot of the Elder Scrolls titles. You two haven't. The spin-off games are okay at best. I see how you fell into the arena that Fallout has better titles. However, I argue Elder Scrolls has more influential games. Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim, even Daggerfall, push the limits in terms of size. Most of these were also TTRPGs brought to your screen, which is what many wanted. Secondly, Daggerfall rocks because you could become a werebore, ride a horse, and smack enemies around." So, and he's making a good argument.
Yeah, I do think I agree on the influential side of things as well, especially Skyrim, which is just this pillar within gaming now. Like, everyone knows it.
Yeah. I have a feeling there wouldn't be the Avowed we know now if there wasn't the Skyrim.
Yeah.
So, like...
I mean, the amount of articles comparing it to Skyrim.
Yeah, we're about to talk about a game that is clearly a iterative result of what we got with Elder Scrolls. So, it's and I'm excited to talk about it, for sure. But thank you, Eric. Thank you for that comment. And obviously, if you want to be a comment of the cast, leave a comment on the YouTube or the Spotify side. Let's get into the quick news of things that happened to come out.
Yep.
That's mostly what all this is.
The news is games. Like,
the news is games.
For some annoying reason, all the games had to either come out or be announced in February, and it was all at once and all a bit much. We had such a quiet January, guys. Why couldn't a couple of these games come out in January? Why couldn't we spread out the announcements? No. February, everything happens.
Yep. So what happened?
Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 came out. People seem to like it.
Yep.
That sounds good. Don't
So
think either of us
RPG.
are playing it. Yeah. That's good. Enjoy, people. Civilization VII came out as well. Weirdly, I've heard nothing about that.
It's mixed.
Okay.
It's got a lot of mixed reception, and also it is still... The 4X genre is still a niche genre. So I feel like its news cycle is a lot shorter than other games.
Yeah.
Because it does attract a certain kind of player. Kind of like those people who pay attention to only like fighting games or only, racing games or whatever.
It does make sense.
Yeah. I've heard it's got some interesting mechanics, like choosing a leader and choosing a civilization that are different. But I also heard that it's got a lot of steps backwards. And a lot of comparisons are being made to Civ 6, but the comparisons are sometimes unfair because Civ 6 launched in a mid state as well and got patched into what it is now. So I don't know. Okay. It feels like a no-win kind of thing so far. But thankfully all of us had other things we could play too.
Yep.
Like?
Well, Avowed did launch as well, but that's going to be our entire topic.
Yes.
So it came out. We'll talk about it in a handful of minutes. That's timestamps. You'll know better than us how long it's going to be.
Yep. Chapter point, timestamp.
Yeah. The other big thing that happened was the PlayStation State of Play, where a ton of games got announced. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, we had a bunch of games come out, and in the middle of the games coming out, there was this big State of Play. It was just too much. Too much gaming. Just calm down.
Yeah.
I think the big game for us and for many people that was announced at the State of Play was Borderlands 4.
Yep. I mean, Lost Soul aside was something I've been watching for a long time, so...
I did not understand the words you just said there.
Lost Soul aside, it was originally a solo project that got picked up by Sony when they saw how much this person was pouring into this action game that they were making.
Okay, yeah, I completely scrolled past that, I'll be honest.
It's the Devil May Cry like.
That makes sense why you've been keeping an eye on it. Yeah, on the little thing we've got linked, it's honestly it's kind of the most simple of the images for the thumbnail. So my brain clearly just glossed over that one.
Yeah, and then you watch the gameplay and you're like, oh my god, this is ridiculous, kind of thing. So, and then of course Monster Hunter Wilds, which is something that we're going to see this month.
Yeah,
also.
that releases in less than a week, right?
Yep, the 28th, which is, as of recording, 6 days from now.
Yeah. So the State of Play also had quite a few remasters, remakes, and DLC stuff going on. Like Liza P has a DLC. There's a new Five Nights at Freddy's thing. There was another Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater. So I'm assuming that's a remake.
That's the the remaster, big remaster thing that they were doing for Metal Gear Solid 3, Metal Gear Solid Delta. I'm still mad at Konami. So that's that. Let's see. A lot of people were excited for Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii.
That's another DLC, right? We've already had that main
I'm pretty sure it's a full-ass game.
Okay, is it like a little spin-off?
Yeah.
That makes sense then.
Yeah. But I could also be completely wrong. Going back to Borderlands 4, how are you feeling about it?
I'm looking
about
forward
what
to
we
it.
got to see.
It looks very Borderlands 3, which I'm sure will put some people off because a lot of the Borderlands community is just dead set on 2 being the game, and everything outside of it they kind of keep at arm's length. But Borderlands 3 was a lot of fun. It's kind of nice to see we're getting Borderlands 4 not a ridiculous amount of time later. I know it has been several years now, but so many franchises are doing the thing where we're having a huge jump in time before the next entry, and Borderlands doesn't seem to have done that. We get some Borderlands or Borderlands adjacent stuff within every few years or so, which is nice.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's not so much that we're getting the yearly entries and it gets stale, but it's enough that we're not waiting for ages like Elder Scrolls does.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess they're kind of still playing around with it too, some. Like Wonderlands was the, Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep.
Yeah.
But a full game. And I did enjoy parts of it.
Yeah. Overall,
but then it got
I think
to that
Wonderlands
Borderlands
was a
grind.
good game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed that they have a new gore system, or there's just something weird going on with the enemy bodies in the trailer.
No. I must admit, I've not watched the trailer since the trailer came out.
Yeah, it's not exploding chunks like how it used to be in the classic ones. It's more of like very gravity affected. They just drop to the ground. I don't know if that's intentional or if that's just early gameplay footage, but I think it's kind of weird when I see chunks that are bigger than the enemy they killed fall to the ground. I don't know. That's just one thing that was noticeable to me. I'm like, oh, they're playing around with the new gore system. Cool.
Yeah, I was much more focused on weapons and abilities. Okay, I've seen... Yeah, I'm trying
got 28 seconds.
Yeah, they've got chunks that they go into and then drop down. I see what you're on about.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah,
that's all. That's what stuck out to me. I nitpick the weird things that are flavor. That's me.
I was paying attention to the explosions and the guns and the pretty lights. Because there's a lot of them in the trailer, understandably. I
might also be a little more jaded than Sarge on the Borderlands franchise as a whole. So.
Yeah.
Could be that too. I don't know. But if you plan on playing it, Sarge, I'm still down to join.
Yeah. I mean, I want to play it. I don't know when I'll play it. It's apparently set for release for September 23rd. As this was the PlayStation State of Play, though, they're just confirming it for PS5 release. We don't know what's happening with other stuff. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's probably not going to be a day one buy for me or anything, honestly. But it is the sort of thing that I'd like to play. Simple as.
Yeah. I think that's about enough we can do to cover the state of play. If you're interested, we have links to stuff down below if you want to see some trailers on like what you possibly missed, because there was some cool like new IP coming out. If you like, you know, if you like looking at pretty trailers, then
I mean, Saros
there's
is
a lot
one
of those
that stuck with me because I'm seeing a little bit. But yeah, do shout at us in the comments as well for not mentioning the game that you like. You've also put something about Neverwinter Nights here, Caedo.
I have. This game old. I understand this game old, but it has still been getting updates, and now a official expansion to the original storyline module, which was a surprise to everyone, I think. And I got word of this from Mortismal Gaming right before we started recording. Yeah, the post says, at long last, a sequel to the original Neverwinter Nights campaign is here. Play Doom of Icewind Dale, a new Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition premium module by Luke Skull, also known as Alexander in the Neverwinter Nights community, now available on Steam. Continue your story as the hero of Neverwinter and battle an ancient foe threatening the frozen north of the Forgotten Realms. If you're not familiar, this is a older CRPG that is like right when they started using 3D engines for Dungeons and Dragons games. So it's not the prettiest to look at, I will say that, but it is a lot of fun, and what has caused this to live as long as it had is similar to Skyrim's story, where they released the module creation tools kind of alongside the game, and that is what has kept the game alive. Is like people were just able to make their own giant D&D campaigns with this tool set, and that's kind of how these keep coming into being. But this new DLC is like 10 to 15 hours. Obviously you can import your previous character like any other module if you had played before. It supports multiplayer. All of them do, I believe. So if you find somebody else to go through it with you, I often drag my friends into these a lot of the time. And there's also like returning characters. Apparently Imoen from Baldur's Gate is under another alias and in this one as well, which is really cool. So yeah, if this is something you've been keeping your eye on, if you can handle the visuals of the game, think like, I don't know, an overhead view of Morrowind, little blocky characters.
You can pretty much count the polygons.
You can count the polygons, yeah. It's a good time. I'm sure it's going to be another good time, good story, good little thing to play through. And currently it looks like it's on sale too for $9. Steam launch discount for 1 week. It's got $1 off. So yeah, and this is D&D 3.0, a gamified version of it. So if you're familiar with Pathfinder, if you're familiar with Pathfinder, you'll be familiar with how this system works, because that's kind of where Pathfinder split off from D&D. Another little tidbit in there. But yeah, I when I caught wind of this, I'm like, oh, I'm a geek about Neverwinter Nights. So, there you go. Avowed's not really your thing and you want a more classic RPG, there you go too. And now we can move on to geeking out about Avowed. Right, Sarge?
Yes. Clearly the Dream Scourge has got Caedo, because I guess that's spoilers. If you play too much Avowed, the weirdness in the game gets into your brain real life. So I guess I should probably stop playing at this point.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for the heads up there.
Yeah.
But from the 18 hours I've played so far, I can say Avowed's a game.
Avowed is a game. You're right.
And I would even argue that it's a really good game.
Oh my god, Sarge.
I like the game. Although, I didn't enjoy my first hour or two.
Because you were getting a handle on the systems and stuff?
A large part because of that. There was also... I've had, some performance issues with the game. not like a huge amount, but especially running through like densely populated areas like the city-like areas in the game, my frame rate does tank.
Paradise is actually probably the worst for my machine. Yeah.
Yeah, which is quite annoying, because I've got plans to record a series, and I would like a consistent frame rate.
Yep. I don't know if that's going to happen in the city.
Yeah, I think what I'm literally going to have to do is play on epic settings the rest of the time, where the game runs fine, but then as soon as I head into Paradise, like, turn down to medium or low, just to get a decent frame rate. Which will be a fun little mini-game for me to do with him playing the game. But yeah, I didn't enjoy the start of the game, because there are a lot of like settings and systems, and you start out in Tutorial Island, as I'm always going to call it now.
Oh yeah, it's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and it's fairly linear, it tries to teach you absolutely everything, it does introduce some characters and like a bit of plot and stuff, but it's very much just an extended tutorial. And I did not enjoy going through it, because it tries to get you to use things in very specific kind of ways at the start. There is some freedom given to it, but I'm not a big tutorial fan, just overall.
I did notice that the starting weapon might be different based on...
Yeah, it depends on the background you pick.
Attributes or background?
It's based on your background. What background did you pick?
My first one was War Hero.
Oh, and what weapon did you start out with?
Spear.
Ah, I picked Arcane Scholar, and I got a dagger, aka the worst weapon.
My second character had a dagger, and I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it's based on your background.
I want a spear.
And Arcane Scholar, because it's like the magic-y, nerdy background, it's like, yeah, you get a tiny little dagger to stab everything with.
Yeah, have fun, nerd.
Yeah. Which undoubtedly did not help with my first impression of the game. Being given the weakest weapon to start with.
Yeah.
But both of us have made videos which are X things I wish I knew before I played Avowed. And a big one for me was dodging, which I'm sure the game does tell you during Tutorial Island, like it must do. But it also tells you 100 other things during that time. Yep. So I missed a few of the tutorial boxes.
And not just verbally, it's also visually. Like,
oh yeah,
so you gotta pay attention to both.
Yeah, pop-ups which happen all the time, sometimes in the middle of combat. So yeah, I didn't realise dodging was a thing, which, at the end of Tutorial Island, I won't spoil exactly what happens, but there is a fight where dodging is really helpful, and I didn't know how to dodge, so I was just trying to run away. And that didn't work very well, and I used up like every healing item I had.
I mean, people are going to be seeing this very thing that we're talking about probably on screen right now. So
yeah, that's basically a tutorial boss.
It's the mage character that I started. So I'm gonna be reenacting in real time, but using my dodge button because I have 30+ hours with my other character.
Yeah. Yeah, whereas I was just starting and was like, oh no, I'm super weak and not very good at this.
I can see like especially if you go mage mode like immediately when you're able to, like you don't have a block either. Nope. So you have to dodge.
Yeah. Also, I don't think the island has a shield on it.
It does.
It does? Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm not sure if I didn't pick it up or just didn't notice when I got it. But blocking wasn't really something that came up for me with tutorials. It was just don't get hit, which is hard to do. But
I wonder if it would say it like when you would pick it up.
Possibly.
If that's like the
like
trigger.
I could have just missed it. I was fairly far right in my looting, but I'm sure I did miss like a couple of things here and there. Especially because I will say, even with the loot shimmer, the shields I have noticed blend in better than anything else. Like, I feel like the weapons all are a bit more distinct. They just stand out to me more, but there's been a couple of times where I've almost missed a shield, so I probably did just look directly at it during Tutorial Island and go, oh, a circle on the wall, and walk past.
Maybe.
But yeah, I struggle with Tutorial Island.
Maybe you have circle blindness.
I might have, that could be the case. But yeah, when I got into kind of the game proper and spent a bit more time testing things out, and learned how to dodge and learned all about like charge attacks and figured out what weapon combos work best for me. Had an absolute blast, and I am great at the game now. Like, I am just powering through fights, just doing perfect jobs, deadshotting enemies, love it.
Yeah. What's your current loadout for your magey person?
My current loadout is I've got a bow as one of my weapon sets. You get 2 weapon sets in the game you switch between, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a bow as like my main thing I'm using most of the time at the moment, especially because it's stealthy to start, and if the enemies stay away from me, I can just keep shooting them and dodge incoming arrows.
Stealth archer.
Yeah, I am playing a bit of a stealth archer. Though, I've noticed the game really doesn't let you be super stealthy.
Correct.
There's lots of clumps of enemies, and if you attack one enemy within the clump, everyone else will notice. Mm-hmm. Like, occasionally the game gives you, like, isolated enemies who you can stealth kill, and that's all good, but it doesn't allow you to be, like, pure stealth.
Correct. It's more like thinning the herd than anything.
Mm-hmm. Although I did manage to stealth kill, like, a bunch of spiders who were just far enough away from each other.
Nice.
That, like, every time I shot one, their detection meter went up a little bit, but I shot them all and killed them with one shot really, really fast, that none of them fully detected me, and I felt very proud of that.
They have so many eyes, though. How did they not see you?
They do, because I'm sneaky! But yeah, I got my bow for sneaky strong shots, and then, for my other set, I was using a wand and a pistol for a while, but now I've got a sword and a pistol. Because, obviously, I'm using uniques, which we love. And yeah,
I have a whole talk about those.
Yeah, I have a flaming sword and an electric pistol, which is just so cool. Especially because, man, I feel like I'm kind of taking over and talking about so many things, but there's a lot of puzzle elements to the game, and sometimes you'll need to use different literal elements, like fire and shock and stuff, to activate things and to solve puzzles. So constantly having like a pistol I can do shock damage with and a sword which I can burn things with is just kind of handy and nice.
I used Karok's Pride for a lot of the game with my main character, or my first character.
Is that one of the things that I
that's
said?
That's the shock pistol, yeah.
That's the shock pistol, cool. I've forgotten the names. Like, there's a lot of cool names, but I have recently hit a point where I've been getting a ridiculous amount of uniques. Like, early on, I got, like, 1 or 2, but in the last 5 or so hours of gaming, I've probably got, like, 20 to 30 different unique items. I think it's very much how I ended up turning in quests at certain points and going to certain locations. I've just been bombarded with uniques. So, I've forgotten most of the names, but there's some very cool ones in there.
There are. And the only reason I said the name was because I'm looking right at my spreadsheet that has...
that'll be it.
all the ones I've found.
Yeah. What sort of loadout have you been running, Caedo?
On my main character, I've been kind of sticking to two-handers.
Okay.
Two-handed, like, greatswords. The greatswords in the game are so good. They feel so good to use. But the current one my character's using is a greatsword called...
Is the name going to be a spoiler of some kind?
No.
Okay.
No. It's called Hell's Tongue. It's got an effect called Emotional, which sounds funny, but it says hits deal 10% bonus fire damage against enemies above 50% health, and 10% bonus frost damage against enemies below 50% max health. Nice. So first couple hits do fire, and the last couple hits do frost to slow them down and then shatter them. It's nice. Really cool. And before that, I was using it's like a blood based or a bleed based greatsword that just drips blood constantly. Hey, unique weapons are cool.
Yeah, they're really cool. Oh, God, and the way you get some of them is really good. Obviously, we're going to be avoiding spoilers and stuff.
Yeah.
But sometimes you'll do like really stupid seeming quests and just get a really good reward for it. And I appreciate that. It's not like always, oh yes, you defeated this powerful foe, so now you get a god tier weapon. Sometimes it's like, you helped this guy who's clearly just out of it or whatever, so you get a surprisingly good item. And I'm like, perfect, love it.
There's one point where you're helping a guy dig through sewage.
Yes, that's not even a quest if you're talking about the one
And
that's
it's
in
not
the
even a
shambles
quest.
area. Yeah, that's not a quest. I did that today. I happened to go back to that area, and yeah, that he's looking for an item. You find the item, and then the game doesn't like tell you to do it because, like we say, it's not a quest. But presumably, it wants you to give the item back to him. Don't. Just why would you?
Don't. It's really good, actually.
Yeah, I'm using it right now. It's like, wow, this is a great thing. And it's not even a quest to get it. It's really well hidden as well, just because of the nature of where it's been positioned.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but there's so many lovely little interactions. In fact, my favourite interaction I think so far is on the streets of Paradise. There was like clearly two people had fought and like killed each other. And there was like weapons laying on the ground with their bodies and stuff. So I was like, oh, free weapons. Went over and picked it up. And the guards who were there were like, this is a crime scene, what are you doing? And had like a line about it. And that was lovely. There's that sort of thing happens so often that you just get really genuine sort of interactions with the world. It's amazing.
Yeah. And time passes with events like that too. Like the guards are there, and then it's just the bodies that are there, and then it's just a pool of blood that's there. Like if you're like leaving and coming back, like it's the world moves on without you, which is I miss that.
I also I think it's a really smart move that the kind of role you inhabit is the envoy of this empire. Because it lets you get away with a bunch of stuff, especially at the start of the game. Like, me taking that weapon from the crime scene, in so many other games it would be like, halt, you're under arrest, sort of deal. But this one, the guards were just like, oh, come on, man, what are you doing? Because we're the envoy, we've got, like, basically diplomatic immunity. We can kind of get away with being like that. And I think that's a very smart move, because it doesn't have to define too much of your character. It's not like a Witcher situation where you're playing Geralt and you've got all of this stuff which is set in stone. Instead, it's just a case of, you happen to be here for this purpose, you've been given a rank, it gives you a bit of power and a bit of justification for why things happen the way they do, but it doesn't constrain you too much. I love it.
Yeah, because the folks that are usually pretty smart is like, oh, this is a representative of the Empire. If anything like happens to them, like they're gonna come after us. It's like the ones that are in the political intrigue side of things anyway. So the the other part of my loadout, I didn't get to the other part of it. It is Karok's Pride, which is the shock pistol, as well as a Grimoire that I had held on to for a while because it had the that shield spell that just got nerfed, by the way. It got dropped from like 50% to 25% damage resistance. And it's understandable. Like, you don't need to be like that resistant to damage if you're using the tools at hand, especially like dodging and blocking.
Yeah.
So
I also feel like with heavy armor and the right skills and stuff, that could make you nigh on unkillable.
Oh yeah. What do you think I was doing with my two-hander and a Grimoire? Like, I couldn't... And the frickin' shout ability that warriors get, which gives you a full bar of temporary HP. Like, my standard HP bar was not getting touched at all. So, I understand. I understand the nerf a little bit.
Yeah. I'm glad to see, like, some patches and updates and stuff are happening, and I hope there's a lot of fine-tuning that occurs. I'm also hoping for a couple of extra features to get added, but not holding my breath on any of them.
One of which needs to be photo mode.
Caedo, we are recording this. It is currently like UK time, like 6 minutes past 1 on the 22nd of February. 59 seconds ago, I uploaded a video talking about photo mode. Yeah,
it's been in the back of my mind, Sarge.
Yep, I made an entire video about it. Part of the reason why I've not played a crazy amount of Avowed, I'm still at under 20 hours despite me having played for like a few days, is that I've been spending a lot of time working on videos. And yeah, I made one all about how it should have a photo mode, because it's a very pretty game.
It's so beautiful. Pretty much anywhere you look, there's like almost always a landmark, like in view, almost, at least in Dawnshore. And it doesn't take much to get like a beautiful photo op, but you have to have photo mode to do that.
Yeah.
Or just wait for your interface or your UI to disappear and then take a screenshot.
Even with that, there's a couple of other things which you need to do in the settings to really get a clear shot.
Yeah.
Like I say, I made a whole video about it because I talked about what needs to be done and what changes can be made to make a photo mode either easier to do with just the kind of print screen screenshot sort of deal, or get a full one in there. It's for me, it has been the one thing that when I'm playing about, I'm like, this is the one thing that feels is missing from the game.
Like it was supposed to come with it.
Yeah. But they built such beautiful environments, and then we're like, cool, no one's going to want to just take a picture of this, right? They're just going to look at it and then move on.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I want pictures.
I want to take pretty pictures. Yeah. Yeah. Especially like, oh my God, the water itself too. I think it's been a long time since I played a game where I want to be in the water.
Yeah. God, swimming doesn't feel horrible.
It feels great.
Like, I don't know what they've done with that as well. Because it doesn't make sense to me. Because it's not like swimming around feels so much different than in other games where you get to swim. Like, there's definitely a sense of familiarity there. They just seem to have removed the annoying part of it. And I don't know how they've done it.
Well, the animation was perfected. That's for sure. Like any direction you decide to hit, like your hands will react, or your hands and legs will react in that way. I think that is part of it, like, because feedback is a big part of like how the game feels good.
Yeah.
But also just generally that there's stuff in the water, and you can see it. That's probably part of it too. Okay.
Yeah, the clarity's got to be a big part of it, because
like Dawnshore area especially, like the water is like pretty clear, so you can see fairly well what you're looking at. Later on, water starts to get murky and also dangerous, so that can change obviously, but by and large there's a lot of spots where the water is just nice to check out.
I mean, on that note as well, I'm running the game on like ultra epic settings, and when you look at water and the reflections, they're really well done. Like, I don't normally nerd over the reflections and stuff. Like, I want a game to look good, that does matter to me, but I don't get into the nitty gritty of it.
Yeah.
But just today, I happened to be staring at a puddle, and I could see like a building reflected perfectly, and it was just so good.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Even though I had to turn off RTX, which made me sad, because my hardware is showing its age, I was still able to see at least silhouettes of things, like in the puddles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
On like, I think it's on high settings with like DLSS and stuff like that. And it's still like, it's unnecessary. Like, but when you notice it, you're just like, oh my God, there's another world in this puddle.
Yeah. It's a real pretty game.
And you've only gotten to the second area?
Yes. I've almost 100%ed the first area. I'm literally missing like one item you can pick up, and that's all that I'm missing. I did everything else in that place, and I've uncovered basically the entire map.
Is it a totem piece?
It is a totem piece.
Ah, guess what guide I'm doing next?
I'm glad you're doing totem piece guides. Like, I'm expecting totem piece guides and unique guides from you.
Yep.
You're going to make a guide for every individual unique in the game, right, Caedo? Come on, that's your next 5 years of work sorted.
Well,
you'll never be short on video ideas. There are. I genuinely think there's how many? I uncovered about 50 different uniques at this point, and I'm in the second area of the game. Like, it just feels like there's so many uniques. Especially because your jewelry, all of those are unique items.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't have to go that hard.
I like it, though. It makes sense to me. I don't want to just have generic rings and stuff. There's not really point to those except for selling, and they've already got a valuables tab where they just don't have rings and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's smart. The whole weapon and unique system is done better than I could have done it, and I want to point out that is a ridiculous level of praise I'm giving to Obsidian here.
Yes.
Because I have spent hundreds of hours thinking about how to do weapon systems, how to do uniques, all of this stuff. Me saying that they've done better than me is the highest praise I can give to them.
It's like they took the joy of finding something that has something like additional to it. Like I'm pretty sure that like even the unique armor and stuff like that still like follows the same baseline when it comes to quality, like armor resistances and stuff like that. Like they didn't even, it doesn't seem like they touched that at all. It was more just like what effects will make people actually want this stuff, and that's what they put on it as making it unique. Also naming it, also giving it a backstory, and also with the weapons. I'm gonna let you gush about this part.
Is it the upgrading of the effects?
The enchantments, yeah.
Yeah, the enchantments, that's what they're called. Yeah, you basically every unique weapon or every unique item or weapon and armor, has like 2 added effects to it. But then with the weapons, one of those effects you can upgrade in some way. And it's not just like, oh, it deals an extra 5% damage, now it deals an extra 10% damage. It's like the pistol we've talked about. I think it deals like shock damage on a full charge or a headshot or something like that. I can't remember the exact thing. But it's got the shock damage effect. And then when you upgrade it, you can make that shock damage effect just cover everything around rather than just the thing you've hit. Or you can have it give a chance to cast a spell when you kill something.
Yeah, that jumps to targets. I chose that one.
I chose the other. The thing for me, I was like, oh, this is only when I kill, and it's only 25%, and that's not my killing weapon. Like, the sword and the bow are my killing weapons. The gun is my support weapon to, like, stun enemies or do that.
I would use it as an opener, and then if I... Like, if there's a bunch of little trash around, like little spiders and stuff like that, and the proc went off, it would kill, like, 3 in a row.
Yeah.
So, it was really, really cool.
I probably will do that upgrade on my second character, which I already have ideas for. I just need to find more unique guns. Because the only other unique gun I found, I think, I may have actually found a few, but it's another pistol, which has the effect of being worse.
The Disappointer.
Yeah, the Disappointer, which I love as well. There seems to be like a few uniques they're throwing in which are, I mean, not flat out worse. They've still got different effects to them which can help compensate, but their gimmick is kind of that, yeah, these aren't things you actually want to use necessarily.
Yeah. They
kind of suck.
Or very specific use case that most people aren't going to try or need.
Yep. And I appreciate that as well. That's a fun way to mess around with things. I want to talk about the upgrade system for just standard weapon and armor progression, though. Because that's really, really smart.
I think so, too.
Yeah, it manages to make it so that you don't have the problem of early items kind of become useless late game, and late game items are all you want to get. Because otherwise what often happens is you'll see, like, a lot of people will make guides, and a lot of people want to just be like, oh, okay, how do I get the best weapon immediately? And it's like, okay, power through the game, get to the end, get the really good weapon. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm sure there still will be some of that, just due to the nature of how you progress in the game, and because uniques are tied to, like, locations and quests and so on.
It blows my mind that they figured out how to do both, though. Like, they figured out how to do both things at once. Which, for anybody who doesn't know, the enemy difficulty is more related to the gear quality that you have. Which starts at common, goes to fine, then... What, epic? Is it epic?
Maybe? I can't remember all the names. It's like
There's five
Blue is the second one. Then it's
quality
purple.
tiers, each with like 3 ranks.
Yeah, and you use materials to upgrade, and use special materials to switch over to like the next grouping as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And, I also noticed I'm not sure, you will probably be able to confirm this, but can you pay gold if you don't have the materials for some of the later ones, or is there just a gold cost?
There's just a
for
gold
some
cost
later
as well.
upgrades?
It's
Okay.
gold cost on top of it to go to the next tier, I think. Like
See,
just going
that
to the
makes
next
sense.
tier, not each rank after that.
Yeah. Alright, because obviously I'm not as far in the game. I've only done a few upgrades.
Yeah,
All my stuff is like fine tier.
And there's something I discovered that I wanted to put in the tips and tricks, but I didn't have enough proof from. The vendor that sells the Disappointer is easy enough to avoid. Like, I missed him entirely my first time through Dawnshore. So as a test, I kept going back once I had upgraded some of my gear to like, I'm up to Superb now, because I'm, reaching that part of the game. And I come back and now he's selling a Superb version of the Disappointer. So the game also scales scales your loot based on your current gear quality. It does keep armor and weapons separate still, but if your armor or weapon is of a certain quality, then that quality is going to be showing up, which is so nice.
But
It doesn't
also
mean
it's
you
the
have to
case
start
of,
from 0 every single time.
Yeah, but let's say you did pick up a unique while it was just at like base quality right at the start of the game, but you want to try it out now. Because there's an upgrade system, you can just upgrade it to the tier that you want to get it to.
Yeah.
It's not like you picked it up early and now it's kind of worthless, like you have with a lot of games where it's based around level. And it'll be like, oh, you picked up at level 1, so it sucks. You should have waited until you're level 50. Like, no, you can just upgrade it, and that's really good.
Yeah, and this is our opportunity to make fun of Bethesda because they don't have a system like that. Like,
Nope.
if you show up at a certain level, you're getting that leveled loot from like a vendor or an enemy, and it's going to be outperformed after so many levels. Like other things are just going to be better. And there's nothing you can do about it.
I have this problem with leveled loot in general. We mentioned Borderlands earlier, and I think Borderlands does a really good job with the looter-shooter element, but it still has a problem of, oh, you picked this up at level 8, and sure, it was a legendary and perfect and all that good, but you're level 10 now, so it's just getting a lot worse.
You gotta replace it, because the blues are starting to outperform it, kind of thing.
But in Avowed, if you picked up something right at the start of the game, you can keep it strong throughout.
Yeah.
But yeah, it did such a good job here.
Yeah.
I have so few complaints about the game, and all of the ones I have are super minor.
Yeah.
That's another thing as well. I've seen people talking about Avowed Online, even while trying to avoid people talking about Avowed Online, because I'm trying not to spoil it for myself. But pretty much all the complaints I've seen have either been just stupid people being angry online, which is always going to be the case.
Yeah, the anti-woke mob.
Like, too much of that, unfortunately. Or it's people just being like, yeah, this isn't, like, to my taste, this particular thing. Like, I saw one person say that he didn't like one of the really high-level spells wasn't more flashy. And that was, like, one of his biggest complaints about the game. Was just like, yeah, I wish it was a bit more...
That's very specific.
And, yeah, it's like most of the complaints I've seen that I don't have a, like, complete no, you're wrong about are like, oh, that's just a specific you thing.
It's
rather
like,
than
and it could be like a
good or bad.
nitpicky, more of a nitpicky thing than
like
the overall game is still good, but this thing I'm not really a fan of, kind of thing. And that's just general critique. Like, you're not gonna find everything perfect about it.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice that there's not really any major issues. I'm sure there are bugs and stuff. I know you've mentioned a little bit, and there have been a couple of patches already since
Speaking
the
of what makes Caedo mad.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay. So I want to mention this, even though I don't think it's going to happen to anybody else after this point, because it probably got patched, was because I got the early version, like the pre-launch version of the game. That means it was pre-patched too, because usually games have a day one patch now. And I got to the third area of the game, Shatterscarp, and when I got to the main city or settlement of that place, it has a quest trigger that's supposed to happen. Like there's supposed to be a fight there.
Yeah.
And I didn't do it. I was just exploring the map because that's literally what Caedo does. That's my freaking job. So I was just exploring the map, trying to find all these cool uniques, fill out my spreadsheet and stuff like that. And then I finally decided to do that right after the day 1 patch came out. And I went to the city and nothing triggered. Couldn't get into the front gates at all. I was hard locked in the main quest after the patch came out. And I'm like, oh no. Well, good thing Caedo is also very liberal with his saves, because I could pinpoint where everything went wrong, and unfortunately it was at the very beginning of entering this third zone. So I had to do a lot of retracing my steps, and that was pretty aggravating. But hopefully that is one of the things that just got patched out already, because patch 1.2.3 also just happened. They're pretty aggressive about patching the game, so that's nice too. Because I ran into another like side quest block or side quest choice block where you're supposed to have access to some loot no matter the outcome, and one of the outcomes doesn't let you loot it. It just like dialogues through it. Just was like, oh, looks like you got into it already, but you didn't.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, but I want it though. I want to be nice and get the loot, please. But but bugs aside, because like those are gonna get patched. Like they're very aggressive on getting the game running smoothly.
Yeah, I will say as well, I don't think I've had any proper bugs. The closest thing is the judder when you open a lockbox, which was addressed in the latest patch.
Oh yeah, and that's not a big deal. Like,
no, it was a real minor one.
It scoots you a little bit.
Yeah, it's like your character was sneezing every time I opened the box. But the other thing I have noticed is when I quit out of the game, it sometimes says it's crashed.
Oh yeah.
I've had that pop up. It's also apparently calling it Alabama game, and I don't know why.
Yeah, I noticed that too when it crashed on me. I think it only crashed on me once, to be honest.
I mean, I've not had an actual crash. I exit to desktop, and then a few times it's popped up and gone, the game has crashed, and I'm like, no it hasn't, I just quit out.
But yeah, I think they're like along the side of uniques and stuff like that, and wanting like a photo mode, like features that we wanted. There is no way to really admire or inspect physical items. And that irks me a little bit, because simply because of what I do, kind of thing. Like you can see how it looks when your character is wielding it, but when you're trying to present it to someone, or at least want to appreciate like the work that an artist put into certain weapons and gear, it's really hard to do with the weapons, because you have to go into third person camera to look at the other angles, or just look at it like on your back in the menus, because there's no way to inspect physical inspection, not the stats. You can see the stats just fine. Also, as far as I know, they're not hiding really much of the stat breakdowns at all, thankfully. I'm really thankful that when you go to your character stats and you're looking at what's coming from what, like it'll tell you everything. It's
pretty clear.
I really appreciate that after playing Starfield, and there's so much that this game does that should be there in any RPG, and somehow it just feels like a feature that's needed. Like it's been away for so long. Thank goodness it's here now.
I really hope a lot of developers, especially of RPGs, do look at Avowed and take good lessons from it. Because it has done a lot of stuff right. And if this could not be an exception, but instead the norm going forward, then I'd love to see that.
Well, the thing about Avowed too, though, is like part of why it works so well is because it borrowed a lot of systems from other games too, or iterated upon things that did already exist. Like we have stun bars on enemies. Like that's been a thing for a while from other games, and it's a good mechanic. It's a solid mechanic that has a very satisfying, oh, you get a finisher out of the deal, and that immediately scratches the VATS itch without needing to have a VATS like system.
Yeah, it's also a really nice kind of power balance if you end up fighting something stronger than you should be fighting.
Yeah.
Because while you can't deal a ton of damage to it if your gear's not good enough and your companions are like, hey, your weapon's not strong enough, you idiot, you can still build up that stun bar and then get that nasty big hit to help deal a bit more damage. And because you're not dealing as much damage, you're probably going to stun them 2 or 3 times in the fight, and the extra big hit makes it feel more epic and lets you get a big damage boost in. It's a nice balancing thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, the parry system, the parry and block systems, you can feel like a Jedi Knight if you build for parrying. Like, you can straight up parry bullets. It's freaking awesome.
I took a look at some of the skills and stuff, and I'm like, hold up, I can do, like, blocks and returns and stuff with the wand as well as, like, shields? And I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that is super awesome.
Yeah.
There and unlike our complaints with the Outer Worlds, like when we went over the Outer Worlds, I remember we did talk a lot about how the abilities and perk unlocks were very lacking. It was more just like boosting stats.
They were very boring.
More of that than anything, and this thankfully feels like it's very much learned from that, and instead gives us things to play around with.
Yeah, there are a handful of flat damage stats, but each of them is like 3 tiers at most. I feel like even if you were using like 3 separate weapons, or even if you went for every type of weapon, that's probably like 18 perks in total if you wanted to just max every damage possibility for every type of weapon, which you realistically would not do. It's a very dumb way to build a character to make every weapon be its strongest.
Yeah.
But that's still not using every ability on damage. Like, realistically, you might pick a couple of the damage perks to max out. Be like, oh yeah, I want, like, I've done the ranged weapons one, like bows and guns, get a damage boost. I'm like, yeah, of course I'll get that. I'm using lots of ranged. And, like, the one-handed one I got as well. But that's, like, a perk here or there. And then I'm like, yes, I want my wizard spell to just shoot out a bunch of blasts. I also want a slowdown effect whenever I charge up my weapon. That's really cool. Like, there's just, even early on, there's some good abilities to go for.
Yeah. And they make sure to tell you that on your first level up, too, which is nice. Like, they don't even show you the full tree. They're just like, okay, pick your path.
Yeah.
Do you want to be warrior, ranger, or mage? Or wizard, I mean.
From a build maker perspective, I don't love that you have just, like, 3 perks, basically, to pick between on your first level up. But it's also not that bad. Because they're different enough, they get you to interact with, like, the active ability system.
Yeah.
Like, the 3 things you get to pick are, like, making vines kind of grow out of the ground to hold something in place.
Oh, they're very much the bread and butter of those builds, it feels like. So
yeah. So that's for Ranger 1. Then for the Wizard, you've got, like, just some Magic Blast stuff. And then the Warrior 1 is kind of a charge and smash forward.
Yes.
Which, yeah, they're all fun to play around with. They're not bad things to go for.
And regardless. I don't know, I didn't use the Ranger 1 at all.
I've not either.
except for Marius, because Marius comes with it. But the Warrior 1 has a lot of utility because you can air dash with it.
Yeah.
You can smash through breakable walls with it.
Yep.
You can Kool-Aid Man through walls with the Warrior Charge, which is really great.
I picked one of the perks that lets me power attack my melee weapon to blast through walls. I've been doing that lately.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's another fun way to do it. Or you could just use grenades, because once again, the game gives you multiple ways to deal with each of these things. It's not just like, oh, here is the one thing you do to get this sorted.
It almost gives us too many. I will argue. In some cases, it's almost just like, all right, the player's too stupid to figure this out. Let's just give them a grenade plant nearby and hope that they see it.
I do kind of appreciate that.
I do too. I do too.
More than anything, I'm like, oh, okay, there's these plants nearby that grow grenades. That probably means there's a puzzle here. Let's look for it.
Also, just thinking about that, like, these plants grow grenades in the living lands. Like, this place is dangerous as hell.
Yep.
On multiple occasions, because you can get a warrior shout thing, the one that gives me the temporary HP. That also destroys breakables nearby.
Yeah.
Including grenades.
Wait. Oh, you mean like the plant grenades they get detonated,
yep.
Right? Yeah.
Yep. So sometimes I rage and then I explode and get knocked over.
Yeah, I do think my first death happened because I accidentally like close range shot a fire grenade that was growing. That was a lesson well learned.
Yeah, and also if you use any of the like fire ring or aura magic spells, like same deal. Like they will trigger traps and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Which makes sense. Just got to be spatially aware.
Yeah. Or
explode or fall off. How many times have you fallen off things, by the way?
Not very often.
Oh, okay. Just me.
Yeah. I will say, I'm going to mention it a little bit later, but Elden Ring's a game I put a lot of hours into recently. And there's two areas where I'm like, oh yeah, Avowed does this better. One is the dodging. Because in FromSoft games, you roll to avoid attacks, which is kind of stupid when you think about it. Like doing a forward roll to get out of the way of a giant spear being thrust at you isn't something people would actually do. But in Avowed, you get this little dodge mechanic which feels like something sensible to do in a fight. It's not you like doing little acrobatic stuff, it's being like, whoa, dodge out the way of the attack. It makes sense, and it's crazy how rolling has become the standard way to dodge attacks rather than dodge.
Yeah. Rather than just move really fast one way or the other. Yeah.
Which, I'm very glad Avowed did it this way rather than adding in a roll function for that, which it could have done. So many other games have done it.
I do know though, like I do know that there's like a use case for rolling still, because there is like if a game has hitbox mechanics, then you're literally making yourself a smaller target when you roll.
Yeah.
Or having iframes. So like.
But you can also just add in iframes with like dodging and stuff. There's way to do that.
Yeah, there is.
Like program it in without it having this like real world disconnect.
I don't know. It works in this game though. Is what I'm saying. The dodge thing.
I'm arguing for dodge as well.
Unless you're jumping and you hit a direction that's not forward on a very high cliff, and then you dodge off the cliff.
I've done that a few times and salvaged it every single time. And that's the other thing this game does better than Elden Ring, is the platforming.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the platforms in this game at least make sense. They give you room to work with. From Software, I'm sorry I'm going off at you, From Software, but you do this to yourself. They give you, like, the dumbest platforming to do. Like, they'll build a ledge which is, like, 0.5 millimeter thick and be like, yeah, of course that's the path forward. Walk perfectly along this line of pixels. Whereas in Avowed, it's a lot easier to work out, oh, okay, this is the way up. This is a decent platform that you can actually stand on. You get a bit extra room to jump with, so if you don't jump perfectly, you're not going to fall to your death every time. Like, they give just a little bit of wiggle room without removing all of the challenge, and it just makes platforming feel a lot better.
Yeah, I enjoy the platforming as well. After playing so many games that do have platforming, like Dying Light especially, because that's the vibe I got a lot of the time. Dying Light is one of the kings of like parkour mechanics. But going from that to Avowed, it's just like I'm kind of right at home, and it's like a slightly more simplified version of that, where the platforms are way more obvious too, because they have, instead of the yellow paint, which so many games are popular from, it's a dangling or a hanging hunk of rope, which does a very good job of showing the player where they should climb or what
Yeah.
there might be something there.
Yeah. The game's very good at drawing your attention to things without kind of
making it obvious,
breaking the world.
Yeah, making it immersion breaking, I guess.
Yeah, that's the term.
And it's not just that too. It's using sources of light. Like we're pretty well aware of that at this point. Like we even experience it in Skyrim and stuff like that. Like sometimes there's a god ray like hitting the thing you're supposed to go to, or like a conveniently placed lantern or candle or whatever. Because the potions glow in this game, they also use potions for that, which is really smart. And something I noticed pretty early on is like they are using all of the tricks in the book to make sure that the players have the chance to see things that are valuable. Which is really cool. And also the loot shimmer thing, which is I don't know why I would turn that off.
I mean, I will probably turn it off at some point for just like being a bit more immersive, but yeah, it's really nice that it's there and on by default. I think that's the smart way to do it. It's the kind of thing that once I've played through like 4 or 5 times, I might just turn it off because I'm like, oh, I don't need to loot everything. I want to just be more immersed in the world. I'll probably do like a realism run at some point where it's like full no HUD sort of deal.
Oh boy, yeah.
So it's nice for that.
There you go.
But yeah, they do a lot of stuff. The mini-map is also really good. Like, it just shows you where stuff is.
Oh, the compass? Yeah.
Yep. I know it sounds so simple, but that's all it does.
It's so helpful, though.
It just does the one thing it's supposed to do without throwing in other stuff as well. And that just works.
Well, that's what it does, too. It like, if all of those things were on screen, like, all of those things that it's showing were on screen, like, aggressively telling you like what they are, like the screen itself would be cluttered pretty quickly. Whereas instead it's kind of a faded appearance for a lot of the things, except for the like plant gatherables and stuff like that. Like those highlight a pretty bright. But many occasions I have missed corpses or what's left of corpses, and the compass has helped me find those to loot them. So yeah, definitely helpful, and not obtrusive like other systems. Here's another nitpick.
Oh no!
Because we got spoiled in 76 when it comes to like looting all nearby bodies. That's like one of the things that Avowed doesn't have. Which would be a nice thing. Like I wouldn't want to make it a huge radius, obviously, but
I think because you get the compass / minimap thing showing you like X's for where to go, it's not really bothered me all that much. Especially because enemies don't tend to drop a lot of things all at once. Most enemies will drop like 1 or 2 items at most, and even like fancier ones will generally be like a boss or something that has like 6 or 7 top. Which means you're never having to loot like 50 items all at once. Which I appreciate. Just in general, actually, the stuff you loot all serves a purpose. The game tells you what that purpose is.
Oh, man.
Which is so nice.
Is there ever such a thing as too much flavor text? No. I'm not going to leave room for an answer. Descriptions, flavor text, freaking where you could find things. Like, man, just give that information to the player. It's helpful.
I mean, I just really appreciate that when you look at, like, oh, this is a hardwood branch, it tells you crafting component.
Yeah.
Just nice, simple stuff like that is just another thing where it's like, yeah, this makes sense. This makes it so easy to digest and understand it. I do appreciate that they've kept that part simple.
Yeah.
Because especially coming from, like, Fallout and Elder Scrolls, where I'll be like, oh, I'm playing Skyrim for the first ever time. How important are tankards? Well, it doesn't tell me anything, so I guess I'll collect 100 of them. Oh no. Because, I mean, it sounds funny when I say tankards, but then stuff like brooms, you use those for staves. Like, you can craft those underneath the college into a staff. And that's something which otherwise looks completely useless. Like, there's a lot of stuff in games that just let you loot anything.
Wait,
but
what?
it turns
Hold on,
out
what?
this
What?
will be useful. What do you mean, what? Do you not know this about Skyrim?
What? Please explain. What? A broom?
You know a broom?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the place underneath the College of Winterhold?
Is this an Atronach Forge thing?
Atronach Forge.
Oh my
that's
god!
It, yeah.
I didn't know about
You can
that.
build stoves there. Oh. Okay. Man, come on, Caedo.
The Atronach Forge is like one of the few things I didn't like delve into.
Yeah, so it's like a flame atronach. You need a brum, a fire salt, a corundum ingot or ore, and a soul gem of greater level or higher. Like the last three of those, you might learn that they're something you can use in the game. They all have purpose, and eventually you'll figure that out. But brums, this is the only thing they're used for. Likewise, empty wine bottles, rolls of paper, and ruined books all get used in the Atronach Forge for crafting different magic items. But there's no way of really knowing that, because it's all just clutter in the world. And Avowed does not do clutter. Everything you can pick up has a purpose to be picked up. And because the only things that weigh you down are weapons and armor, it's not even a big deal that you're looting everything, because it's not like, oh, I can't afford to pick up these valuable items or these crafting components, I have to ditch something. No, you pick up everything. It's nice.
On that note, can I rant about Starfield again?
Sure.
You know what Starfield needs?
A lot.
A unified stash.
Yeah.
Now I can point at a modern game and be like, hey, Starfield, do that, please. Can you please do that? Instead of this like nonsensical, oh, I have my ship's cargo, and then I have my character's inventory, and then I have all of my outposts that may or may not have things that I need at them, and then I also have the stash I can only access at the lodge, and it's so far out of the way and multiple loading screens away that I don't want to use it.
God,
Don't do that.
Avowed basically has two containers. They are player inventory, camp stash.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's it.
If it's not in one, it's in the other.
Yeah.
And when you're at vendors and stuff, you can just swap between them right away. And from your inventory, you can send stuff to the stash.
Yep.
So, like, the one time I've been over encumbered, I was just like, oh, it's because I'm carrying around, like, 50 weapons. Cool, let's just store those away. And I can carry on. There's no stopping.
Yeah. And the crafting bench will let you switch to stash inventory, too.
That's very good.
Yeah.
I will say, another thing I'd like to see, but honestly don't quite expect, is like a survival mode sort of deal. Because obviously I'm a big fan of those. And if a survival mode got brought in, I'd be like, that's the only time where I'd have negative opinions about the whole carrier weight being easy to deal with. Because for the time being, it's just really nice. But in survival mode, maybe you can't send stuff to stash. That'd be like a nice way to balance it.
I kind of wonder how that would work though too, is because like food is not just an optional thing as much, especially later on. It's kind of a crucial part of like keeping yourself healed.
I mean, I've managed to barely use food so far.
Unless you spam going back and forth
stuff.
from camp.
Yeah.
Which you can do. There's no penalty. But I don't know, maybe a hardcore mode version or a survival mode version would be like you can only camp so many times on a cooldown or whatever.
Or I mean, if they do add in hunger and thirst meters like so many do, camping would then advance time like it does, and those meters would get more, so you'd need more food
maybe
to compensate for that. Like,
yeah.
There's ways to do it, but this is talking about something that may well never happen.
Yeah. I would be
Like,
totally fine with what the game has, because it's already got a solid foundation for like just fun factor and challenge.
yeah.
Like I'm still only playing on normal mode. I am excited to try on harder difficulties to see what that's like.
Yeah. Now I'm playing on normal as well, and the balance feels very good. Like, yeah, I can defeat lots of enemies, and I've bragged a little bit about like nailing a couple of fights. But there have also been fights where I got myself out of position, my back up against like a wall and something while I was surrounded, and I just got torn to pieces.
Yep.
Like, even at normal difficulty, you can still screw up. It's not like the game is just going, oh, you're playing on normal, you're never going to die. You still have to play smart, and this does feel like a game that once I've really learned and mastered it, then I can up the difficulty to give myself a challenge, rather than feeling like I have to play on one specific difficulty to either get through or make the game feel like there's some reward to doing it.
Yeah. I notice later on too, there starts to become more and more encounters where you can be overwhelmed and you have to reposition pretty often. Especially if you're playing a melee build, like it's very easy to get disoriented if you're getting hit by multiple like range dudes and stuff like that. So I also wonder how that's going to be. Like I know there's on-screen indicators and stuff like that to tell like when you're getting swung on, and even which we'll talk about in a little bit, the companions do call outs. They're just like on your right, on your left. Like, dude, I love when games do that so much. Like one of the coolest clips that I have, I don't know if I still have it, is somebody shouted out like I think it was Giada. She was like on your right, and then I immediately like brought my sword up to block, and I parried an arrow on the right. It felt cool. So badass, dude. It felt so cool. But that was all based on feedback from the companions of the game. Like it was like the most immersive, like trust my companions moment I've had probably in any game, in recent memory at least. Cause like, holy crap, dude, that felt so awesome. So what do you think about, first, without getting into too much spoilers, how do you feel about we haven't talked about the story at all, how we feel about it.
No. I feel like it's probably a good thing for us not to focus too much on the story. But I will say, just in very broad terms, that I like the story. What I've seen of it so far seems good. It's enough to be like, oh yeah, I do want to find out what happens. But honestly, probably the best thing I can say about Avowed is I've been getting distracted and not completing the story.
Yeah.
Because I don't love it these days when RPGs are like, you must deal with this threat which is imminent and happening right now and clearly pushes you towards you must deal with this immediately.
Yeah.
Like, I think Skyrim's a good example where it's like, we are actively in the middle of a dragon crisis, and then you're like, but what if I was a thief for a while? It doesn't work so well. But
can I be a political assassin for like a couple days and then I'll get back to you? Real quick.
But like in Avowed, there is this threat, but it's almost nebulous enough and just like not distant. Like it's definitely there, but because you're kind of uncovering stuff and getting through it, it doesn't feel like you have to just mainline the story or else you're a terrible.
I want to say a big part of it is that it reminds you that other things are happening in relation to the main story. Mm-hmm. Like calling back to the main story, like with the side quests and stuff like that. They make sure that they remind you of it, but don't make it the whole thing, if that makes sense. Like other people are suffering from the Dream Scourge or having, challenges in their lives because of the fear of the Dream Scourge, and you also get to see about, helping or hindering them too. Which does drive you back eventually to the main story, but I think that's something that this game that lends itself to this game a lot better, because it's not like a true open world game where like it's 4 big contained zones where they can play that narrative out.
I will say as well, I would have preferred this game to be entirely big open world, because that's just the vibe I go for. Mm-hmm. But I'm happy with how they've managed to do the zones. Like, the zones are big enough that I don't feel quite so constrained. Like, I get that I can't just walk from one side of the map to the complete other of the Living Lands. But every zone is big enough that you get, like, some distinct areas. It all feels a bit different. It doesn't just take you 5 minutes to circumnavigate the map you're on. Mm-hmm. It's big enough that they've managed to do zones that still feel like open worlds in their own right, and I appreciate that. That was one of my concerns going into the game, but I think they've managed to do the best they can while not being a full open one map sort of deal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally cool with it. Like, if the Outer Worlds was an example of like how it was going to be, but quite a bit bigger in that sense.
Yeah.
Like I was cool with it because like that would mean that everything kind of had its own self-contained thing, and then the greater plot would be moved forward when you got to the next area, and then they would have their own stuff going on. I don't know. I kind of like it compartmentalized a little bit more, and also, you haven't. I don't think have you gotten to the end of the second area yet?
Nope.
Okay. You may start to feel the same way.
Well,
I'm not gonna spoil it. I'm not gonna spoil it.
Okay.
But I don't know. Your feelings might change. Is all I'm saying.
Okay. We'll see.
Yeah. But yeah, I like where the story's going, but I still feel like the writing does get a bit pretentious the further you go. Like some of the dialogue sequences could have been halved, and you would have still gotten the same information you needed. Sometimes more is not always better when it comes to like writing extra flavorfully, I guess. It's hard to describe without like coming up with a single example and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And also the world building is a lot to take in if you're new to Aora 2.
I don't disagree, but I've got a counterpoint, which is one thing I like is that I don't really need to know much about the world building.
Correct.
Like, there's an option within conversations and dialogue where it's like show history and lore.
I was going to bring that up.
You can see about specific terms that people are talking about, which is really nice for when I do want
so helpful
added context. But in general, I'm like, yeah, this is a fantasy land, and from context clues alone, I'm able to pick up enough that it doesn't matter that I failed to get into Pillars of Eternity several times over.
Yeah.
Like,
and
I
this
don't
is the first,
need to know this stuff.
Well, not the first time. The first time us being a godlike has really been a key point of the thing. Or a crucial part of the story. Which is cool. I really like that part, actually. And also just a new area, completely new area they decided to explore instead of like the Deadfire or Deerwood and stuff like that from the previous games.
It makes sense because it means like new players like myself can kind of jump into this, and it's weird because Avowed is not technically a new IP, even though it's like
it's not a new IP.
It's already within this world,
but it's a new genre in that IP.
Yeah, it's pretty cool because it's a great jumping on point for players like myself, but because you don't need to have played the previous games, which are all like your top down sort of deal.
Yeah,
I'm not very good at.
Yep.
Instead, I can be like, yeah, I'm really good at playing in first person, so I can actually get into it.
Yeah. Or third person, if you want to use your third person camera.
Third person is an option.
Yes.
I have basically not used it. I've recorded some footage just to be like, hey, there's a third person option, but I'm always playing in first person. Even with me being decent in third person now, I'm like, no, first person whenever I get the choice.
Okay, so companions.
I've only really dealt with a couple so far. Like, you've already mentioned a name I have no idea about.
Oh wow, you're really not into Emerald Stair very far.
This is why I'm trying to avoid spoilers.
Okay, all right,
I'm taking my time.
All right, okay,
I'm really just sinking it all in. I'm letting characters talk.
I understand.
I'm listening to things. I'm looking at stuff. I'm really taking my time. But yeah, so far I like the companions. I think it really helps that the first companion you kind of get given is very kind of charismatic, a bit cheeky, but like a good character with some rough edges, but not really big ones.
He's Sharkman Garrus.
Yeah. I think they made a very smart choice with making your first proper companion the one they do, because it's just a great character and very easy to get on with.
I will say too, for multiple reasons for me. I know you started with a magic based character, and Kai is geared towards damage absorption.
Yeah.
As part of his kind of setup. Which
having a tank as your first follower feels like always a smart move.
It's so nice.
Like, there is no player style which does not benefit from having a tank on the team.
Yep.
Like, even if you yourself are a tank, it's like, oh cool, I know my follower is also able to deal with damage and won't get, like, completely destroyed while I'm busy taking damage and slowly chopping away at things. Like, it's a good way to go.
Yeah.
Especially because that first boss fight I talked about, you do not get a tank on the team, which is not helpful when you're, like, super squishy as well.
Yeah, the tutorial companion is an Orlin. He's just like, oh no. He's more of like a yes man that's just kind of helping you out on Tutorial Island. So I wanted to mention, first of all, each of the companions have 4 abilities that you can build out, because they level up with you, and each of those abilities have, like, you get the ability itself, and then they have 3 other ranks to them.
Yeah, 3 kind of upgrades.
Yeah,
because you get to pick from those 3, which I love as well, rather than it just being you need to get one, then the next, then the next.
Yeah, it's not linear. It's so nice.
More.
Yeah. Very much like how the weapon enchants work, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, where it forks, and you're like, oh, I want this one.
Mm-hmm. But it's not exclusive. You can eventually get, like, all of them.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to say one of my very favorite things. I mean, we played Bethesda games for a long time, Sarge. We have suffered Lydia for years. The mechanics, I don't know how they did their companion AI, but it just feels a lot smarter than what I'm used to.
Yeah.
In the best way. So and also just there's parts of them that are gamified just for the sake of making it easier on the player. For one, there's no collisions between you and your companions. You can walk through them. They are never going to be in your way in the door because you could just walk through them. Not just that.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
If you get into their personal space, they do have spatial awareness. They will back up immediately. There's also that.
Another thing is they don't factor into stealth.
They don't factor into
stealth.
If
you are being stealthy and your companions are just kind of wandering about and seem a bit clunky, enemies don't detect them. It's all focused on you. Yeah. So you don't have a thing of your followers just blindly wandered into combat and now your stealth approach fails, which is maybe not realistic, but it's nice, because I don't want Kai just accidentally walking into like a mushroom or whatever and being like, oh, there's a thing here. Like, no, that's the right way to do it.
I will say, if I am trying to do stealth kills and my companions are too close, they'll start combat with the enemies, and I'll still be able to stay in stealth. But if we hit that weird point where my companions are trying to be stealthy, one of them might just be constantly getting shot by arrows.
Yeah.
I've had that happen a couple times, but it's still not a big deal because I can still get sneak attacks.
Yeah. I've managed not to have that happen at all so far.
Also, man, another positive for Kai is you can use his first move, his gun blast thing that he uses to taunt with. You can use that as a distraction for stealth as well.
Huh.
Like, you can be in the bushes, use his move on the enemy, and then get your sneak attack off, which is really good. It's one thing that I've been exploiting a lot with my my arquebus, the rifle of the game.
Yeah, I've not used one of those yet. I really just focused in on a few weapons I really liked, and that's one thing that I have not used yet. But I've already got build ideas
It's unbelievably
one of
strong, and I understand. Like, I haven't come across a unique in the first zone for probably a good reason, because it's really strong.
Yeah. I mean, even just from the little bit of footage I captured of me using dual pistols, like firing 2 charged shots off at once, I was like, oh boy, guns are powerful. Like, yeah, that's... God. I'm gonna say it. One of my first builds I want to do is the Paradise Pirate. I want to find, like, some pirate-looking gear and have just, like, 3 unique guns and throw grenades around and just have a great time with that.
Yeah.
That feels like such a fun way to play. And that's probably going to be like my second playthrough.
Sarge is going to swash your buckle.
Yeah, so many buckles are going to get swashed. It's going to be great. Yeah. I will say, from a build maker's perspective, it's annoying not having like console commands like I do in Skyrim and Fallout and stuff.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you can't just have this idea and then just get the build done.
It's the same with...
to play for like 30 hours.
It's the same with wanting free camera. Like...
Yeah.
When I was doing some digging, it was just like, oh, you can install third-party software to work with this, and I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. I don't know about that. That's a lot of extra steps.
Yeah, a lot of trust to put in the third-party software.
Yeah,
as well.
and then I tried using the NVIDIA photo mode thing, and like it doesn't have functionality for that. I'm like, okay, well,
doesn't. I made an entire video talking about that.
Yep.
It's a big part of what my latest video is.
Yeah.
Just me being like, it doesn't work.
Yep. So it's more of just a waiting game. Like, I feel like it's a matter of time because I was just seeing, I think there was like one of the top Reddit gaming posts or something like that was like, Obsidian is happy with the results of Avowed's sales and stuff like that. So talking DLC and stuff. And I'm like, ooh, other features, photo mode, please.
Yeah, gotta hope so. And I noticed it's on the Xbox thing. It's showing up as like one of the most popular games at the moment, which is nice to see.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. So far, I'm very, very pleased with what we have to play and work with. I haven't even beaten the game yet.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised.
There's a lot.
I'll say a slight annoyance that I've seen on the content side is I've already seen a few people of like, oh, I've 100%ed Avowed sort of videos have come out, and on a rational part of my brain is just like, no. Just no. Don't like it. Don't like it. You zoom through the game so quickly. No. My brain's doing that when I see those videos now.
Yeah.
But,
well, I will say Mortismal Gaming got an early code.
I did see his video.
So if you did see his,
I've got to assume that was not just the extra days.
No. He gets handed codes left and right because of how meticulous he is and how he 100% games. Like he just did his FF7 Rebirth 100%, and that's insane. Yeah. That is insane to me. Why would anybody put themselves through that? Even as an FF7 fan, I'm like, why?
Yeah.
It's too many mini games, dude.
I mean, I actually have 100% story to talk about when we're on the What Have I Done section.
Ooh. I'm wondering if there are any other details. So the combat's great. The environments are gorgeous. The exploration 90% of the time gets rewarded.
Yeah.
It's ridiculously high, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, I have gotten to the point to where I've found like 2 little spots that I almost feel like should have, like, following the same patterns, like should have had something in them, and the devs just kind of forgot about it. But I'm not complaining because there's already so many. There's already too many almost of like just chests or lock boxes or bags or dead bodies to loot or something. It's always something at when you find this little nook and cranny of the area. You usually get something out of it, and it's kind of nuts. Let's see what else. Did I say the combat already? Combat's really amazing.
I think we've covered everything and been pretty positive about it.
Swimming is surprisingly good. for for the kind of game it is. Verticality, it's up there.
Literally.
Yep. World building, it's there, like pre-established world, like we kind of figured that.
Yeah.
Enemies could use a bit more variety as I've progressed through most of the game. Like there are a lot of different types of Zarips, but there are a lot of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
They are little lizard
I'm
cuties,
fine with that.
but
I like to see a familiar enemy.
yeah.
It's nice. Especially because I am fond of the Zarips.
Yeah.
They are cute.
Yeah. And we're murdering most of them.
Yeah.
Collectibles. Collectibles are like on top of the unique stuff, which, you know, we only talked about a little bit, surprisingly little actually, for what I focus on a lot. The collectibles, like the totems, and the treasure maps, those have like huge boons for the player.
Yeah.
Like massive. It's like getting 6 separate accessories that you could just have active once it's finished at your camp.
I didn't place my totem in my camp until I had like 5 pieces, because I was like, oh, well, I want to fully build it and it will give me like a benefit, right? But
no,
yeah,
each piece.
Yeah, each piece gives a bonus. So I was like, wow, I could have been so much stronger for so much longer.
Yeah, because the Wodaka one has the high fire accumulation. It's just you set everything on fire once it's active. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And once you complete it, you get a little lore thing about the gods too, which is cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it just feels good. It's a good return to form for like first person RPGs, feels like.
Yeah.
That's how I'm feeling about it.
It's a very, very good game.
Yeah. Yeah. Now we get to see what happens next. Are we done with the Avowed thing already?
I think so. I've said everything.
Oh my god. Okay. I know you've been playing Avowed. What have you been doing besides that, Sarge?
I got a bunch of stuff done, because, you know, it's been a month.
Yeah.
One game I wanted to give a quick little shout out, which I didn't play a ton of but had fun with, was Eternal Strands, which is an RPG, third person one this time.
Hey.
But it's a lovely little fantasy RPG, also very bright and vibrant. Like, if you're into Avowed aesthetically, you might also be into Eternal Strands. It's got telekinesis that works well.
Didn't I talk about this game?
I really appreciate that.
I swear I talked about this game.
I don't know. You may have talked about it. I played it when it first came out.
I played the demo.
Ah, you may have played the demo. I was not aware of a demo.
Yep,
but yeah,
Eternal Strands
I had
demo.
some fun with that game.
Episode 149.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ended up playing the game, and it was a lot of fun.
It is fun.
I hunted down a big Colossus thing. It's got good combat. It's a very solid game. Like, if it wasn't for Avowed and stuff coming out, I'd probably still be playing Eternal Strands.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not as good as Avowed, which is not an insult, but it's a lot of fun and something I might pick up in the future again.
Nice.
Something which I've put over 100 hours into now is Elden Ring, which obviously now I'm having to take quite a break from. But I do want to...
Glad you're enjoying it.
Yes, it's lots of fun, and now I'm going to complain about something in it, which is the Melania boss fight, which anyone who's played Elden Ring... Well, I was going to say anyone who's played Elden Ring will understand. A bunch of people have played Elden Ring go, Melania easy, first try, no hit, get a good scrub, because, you know, From Software fans, there's plenty of them who just are like that, unfortunately. But the Melania boss fight is one I hate.
Oh.
It, I think, is seen by most people as the hardest fight in the game. You were saying something, Caedo?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's seen as like the hardest fight in the game for most of the community from what I can find. Like, she's killed players over 1 billion times or something ridiculous. Just like, I think the stats for her are ridiculous. I'm going to actually, Melania, check this, because I'm pretty sure it's put on a wiki page. Oh, no, I don't want cookies and stuff. Bad.
Ooh,
Go
cookies!
Yeah. Okay, in the first year after launch, From Software reported that Melania had killed players 329 million times.
Just a few.
Which is, yeah, a lot of death. But part of the problem with her is that not only is she, like, strong and fast and reasonably tough, and just, like, horrible in so many ways, but every attack she does heals her. And it's not the damage she deals, it's just the attacks.
Oh.
So, yeah, I block attacks really well. I'm a sword and board player. I block the enemy, I learn their moves, I deal with it. That doesn't work with Melania, because I'll deal a bit of damage, then block her incoming attacks. One of her attacks as well is this, like, flurry of swords 3 times in a row, which is about 20 odd hits on the player. And every single time she lands a hit on the player, regardless of if she does any damage or not, she heals a chunk of health. Which, is a problem. Understandably, because I can't use my standard strategy. The way to beat her is kind of just to roll out of the way of every attack, you know, perfectly dodge them. Which, it can be done. You know, get good and all that stuff. But she just feels like a boss who's got one strength too many. Like, if the healing was only when she hurt the player, or if she didn't do the big spinny attack 3 times in a row, just any one thing to, like, turn down her difficulty a bit and just make her not ridiculous is kind of a case of, oh, okay, that would make this into a really challenging boss fight, but not an annoying one. I feel like she's just overtuned slightly to make it not a particularly fun fight. Especially because there's a second phase.
Ah, yeah. Of course.
It's not the standard. This is a really weird thing with me, but if I get a boss health bar down a certain chunk and then it goes into a second stage, 100% fine with it, that's cool. If I empty a boss health bar and then we get phase 2, no, hate it, bad. Even if the HP amount was the same, I just don't like that. On a psychological level, I'm like, no, the health bar is empty, I've defeated them. So, yeah, when it's not done that way, it really bugs me. But, yeah, I've not had fun with her, I've not beat her. I went off and defeated, like, a story boss, like, first try after fighting her for a while, and I was like, okay, I've not actually got bad at the game, she is just really tough. But, I've hit a point in Elden Ring where I need to beat her, but I'm not going back to Elden Ring for a while, because I've got Avowed. And last thing, sorry I'm talking so much, Sea of Stars. I beat Sea of Stars because I was ill and resting up in bed, and that was a fun little RPG, kind of very old school pixel art style sort of deal. That was a lot of fun. There's a genre shift in the game, which it nails perfectly. I had a bunch of fun. Annoying thing is, you only really unlock side quests and stuff within that game when you are headed to the final arena. It's like, imagine if in Final Fantasy VII you didn't get your airship until you were heading to fight Sephiroth. Like, that's basically what Sea of Stars does.
You get a speed boost to the airship.
Yeah, but this is like, imagine you were on foot for the entire game, and then you get the airship right at the end.
Oh.
And it basically does that kind of jump.
Yeah.
Which is annoying, because it meant it was like, yeah, time to beat the game. But first, do you want to do 5 side quests? And I was like, yeah, I kind of do. I want to get everything completed. And I tried to 100% the game, but it turns out to actually 100% and get the true ending, you need to collect 60 of these rainbow conches, they call them, which are just in chests everywhere. And I had about 40, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to just go back to every single area.
I hate collectathons for true endings, man.
Yeah.
I just don't like those.
Yeah, because you have to do like 5 or 6 different things to get the true ending, and all of the rest of them are like actual side quests and stuff with story and fun. But this one is just, yeah, collect all the things. So I gave up on the game and uninstalled it.
Yeah.
I did everything else.
It's quite a pull, but I want to mention Parasite Eve. Parasite Eve does something like that, where the true ending is hidden behind climbing the entire Chrysler building. So you literally have to go up all the floors of the Chrysler building, fighting enemies on every single floor. each of which is like a different maze of hallways every single time, and it's just not fun. It is so monotonous and repetitive. But yeah, that stuff is annoying. It's not it stops being fun. It's more of just like a sunk cost. I've started, now I must finish, and I hate that.
Yeah. So I gave up on that.
It's like being a Kingdom Hearts fan.
Sorry. What have you been up to, Caedo?
I'm not playing Kingdom Hearts, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. We're not losers.
Yeah,
come on.
jeez. Man. Last one I played was Kingdom Hearts 3, and I was sorely disappointed.
I've not played any of them because I'm super cool.
You are super cool, Sarge. I will say that. Sarge is the super cool host. Yep.
That's the one requirement.
Yep.
I'm looking for a co-host of a podcast. You can't have played Kingdom Hearts. It'd be better if you played Fallout or something, but point one stands.
Yep. Final Fantasy IX helped. Anyway, I have played quite a few games over the last month. I wanted to shout out Shadows of Doubt, which is a sandbox roguelike-y kind of neo-noir detective type of game.
Okay.
Where you solve crimes and wander around a sandbox generated city and get to know the people there, like all the names are generated and stuff like that. It's just really cool as a concept, and how much it only responds so much because it is sandboxy in its design. When you're investigating things like that, you do have only canned answers from a lot of the NPCs, but the nature of some of the investigation stuff is like, oh, you have to go into this company building that has like security cameras and stuff like that to recover some like secret company information or some blackmail materials or something like that. Or spontaneously you can like break into somebody's apartment and find a body, and it's like, oh well, looks like a murder happened, time to investigate, kind of thing. Like, so it has this kind of like emergent gameplay aspect to it, as well as alongside being able to take on jobs from like boards that are in restaurants and places. Just generally cool. If you have a love for like the Blade Runner kind of feel and stuff like that, and being an investigative kind of person or detective, then that Shadows of Doubt is that. And was quite a bit of fun while I was waiting for other games to come out. And then I played The Bloodline, which is a solo open world, well, not open world, a solo open zone RPG project that before Avowed came out, like The Bloodline is where I was spending a lot of my time, because it kind of does everything you want kind of a modern game to do, but doesn't take itself too seriously in the process. So everything is kind of fun to do. There's a ridiculous amount of skills, weapons, magic, mounts to get around the maps. Combat is addicting. It's got like city building mechanics. Like this dev is trying to do a lot of things at once. And while it is ambitious and I have concerns of my own about it, what's already there is very fun. And it's obviously an indie game. It's not like crazy expense. You'll get a lot of bang for your buck if you try out the Bloodline, which if I ran out of B-roll, you might be seeing some of that on screen. Something I also did was actual work on videos. Oh my god. I finished
believe it.
Yep, I finished the last 4. Like I had said many a times, I finished the last 4 of the Starfield magazine's guides, and then released all 4 of them over the course of 2 days. Because I just wanted it out of my hair right before Avowed came out. And so like I'm currently done with Starfield for now. Like I was thinking of doing the supercut of those, but just in case Bethesda goes back and they're just like, oh, whoops, here's some more magazines in the expansion or whatever. Like, I'm gonna wait a little bit just in case something happens or changes with them.
Makes sense.
And then I moved on to Avowed. I made the tips and tricks I wish I knew kind of thing. I saw Sarge did one of those as well, which is really cool.
Yeah, man, I worked myself to the bone getting that one out nice and quickly.
I bet you did.
And then, I was like, oh, I wonder if Caedo's going to put one of these out anytime soon. And I went to your channel to look at thumbnails of previous ones you did, because, I wanted to rip you off properly.
Yeah.
And then it was like, 15 hours ago, Caedo made that. And my brain went, oh yeah, Caedo's been playing this for days.
Yep, I sure have.
I'm honestly, if anything, it's surprising you didn't have one out sooner.
Yeah, it was more of like this is one of the games that like it explains a lot to the player fairly well. Where I was coming up with less than I normally do. Because it does tutorialize a lot of things so well. But like one of the things, and some of it was just like yours, things that kind of passed me by.
Dodging.
Yeah.
Hey guys, did you know you can dodge in this game?
Yeah.
I know it tells you, but I didn't realize.
Yeah, mine was. Did you know parry's a skill?
Yeah.
Because I was, going full on warrior for a little while.
Yeah.
And that's the parry is under ranger, along with a really sick ass bullet parry as well, is part of that. So, but yeah, I did that. It's doing okay.
That's good.
It's probably the most obnoxious negative comments I've gotten on a video in a long time.
See, my one is doing badly analytically, but everyone who's watching it is liking it. And I do fear this might be a thing with Avowed, where if you want to break the big views, you're going to have a lot of angry people. Whereas if the video does like under a K, then you're just going to have people who are big fans of it and everyone having a happy time, but obviously video not doing well.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's going to be the devil's bargain with every Avowed video for quite a while,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
I mean, most I'm hoping for at this point is just the game paying for itself because I paid extra for the premium version.
Yeah.
I was like, can I have my $90 again, please?
Yep.
I would love
Whereas
that.
I've made a £2 profit from my total Avowed earnings, because I hadn't paid anything extra for it. I was already paying for Game Pass.
Oh yeah, you had
That's
the Game
how it
Pass
works,
version.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, there's multiple Game Pass games this year I'll be playing and covering, so hopefully my Game Pass subscription will pay for itself.
Yay. Yeah, I've
I've made like 20 videos per game.
Yeah, I've made a quarter back of what I paid.
That's
So
That's not terrible.
I'm almost there.
Yes, and I have a suspicion you'll be making more than one video.
Oh yes. Hey, good segue. I am going to be making videos on each of the totems, obviously. Like we mentioned, the totems are a big deal. Like they are very helpful in the game, and even if you get the treasure maps for them, they're not maps. They're like riddles on paper. So you can get clues, but you're not like just handed the locations and stuff like that. Obviously, as more information comes out on the uniques, I'll be able to like check and verify to make sure my list is accurate and full, which is primarily what I'm waiting for. Also, suck it, Vextra Life, I hate you, by the way. They just chase analytics or not analytics, they chase metadata, and that's it, and I hate it. But aside from that, I've been writing down everything I found, and I'm up to roughly 150 uniques.
Oh damn.
That's weapons, armor, accessories, all the above. And that's nice to see. That's that's a but that's also a big number. This is competing with the iconics of Cyberpunk. So I'm probably going to do it similar to the totems and do it by zone instead of like all at once, because if I do it all at once, I'll never get it done, because there's so many.
Yeah.
But I also might limit myself to weapons first, and then get into like armor and stuff like that. I don't know how much harder I'm going to make it on myself by doing it that way, for like later when I do armor and accessories. But I know weapons are a big thing for players primarily.
Yeah.
So and knowing
It's what people search for.
knowing the unique weapons, and then also knowing the branch off of their enchantments is something I think is going to be valuable. So I'm gonna do that as well. Can't really think of much else. The map does a pretty good job of marking the other things, or the maps and the quests. Like all the bounties are marked like once you take them.
Yeah. I feel like you should probably do a guide at some point for like all the treasure maps. I also want to know if you need to buy treasure maps in order to make things spawn or not.
No, they're always there.
No. Cool. That's good to know.
I-
In which case, a video covering that, I'm sure a lot of people would be interested in.
Oh,
You know,
just like,
gotta save myself a
like a
tiny bit of
20-second
money.
video being like, the title is, "Do you need treasure maps to get uniques?" And then just big letters. No.
I actually meant locations for all the treasure from the treasure maps.
Oh, okay.
Not just a video going, no.
I was considering
That's more
that,
my style.
but there's only like 2 treasure maps per zone.
Yeah, it'd probably be like a full one
So
for the entire game, I guess.
maybe there are a couple that are like really tucked away. I think the treasure maps were a solution to like the really well hidden stuff. Like that you have to like scour for. Like even that first treasure map, I probably wouldn't have found it if I didn't have the treasure map to tell me where it was.
Yeah, I mean, the first treasure map, even with the treasure map, I did not go to the right location first time.
Oh, whoops.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I now that you've suggested it, I might do that for all of them. We'll see.
Yeah. I feel like that could be a good, smaller project to go for overall.
Yeah. And to lengthen the
you
video,
start
I could
getting-
tell people like where the treasure maps themselves are in case they want to try to get them themselves first. So,
Yep.
because I like leaving that option there for people.
Yeah.
Not for the totems, because that's not a map.
You just have to randomly find them.
Yes. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing. I played Astrobot too. That was fun.
Huh.
That was a good time. But that's all. That's all.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining me on this gushing about Avowed episode. And this is episode 150, by the way. Yay.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah. Now we know. 150 is the Avowed episode. If you had anything to share in the comments below, again, you can leave a comment on the YouTube or Spotify side. And hopefully it won't be another month before we do this again. But usually every other Sunday 10 a.m. Pacific is when these episodes go up. So we hope to catch you in the next PIPCAST 3000. Thank you so much. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.